views and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to Outdoors People. With me, C.W. Getz, and her, Maya Marzaki.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, February 28th, 2024. And it's a beautiful sunny day here in São Paulo, Brazil, like always, with 22 degrees Celsius for the free world. And for you guys, United States, it is 83 degrees Fahrenheit. And tonight I'm flying solo, so wish me luck, guys, and luck for you as well, that will put up with my accent. So let's meet tonight's guest. 34 years old business and marketing professional from Wisconsin, Samantha LaSalle is also a female lumberjack, otherwise referred to as a Lumberjill. Samantha is a marketing specialist for Timberworks Lumberjack Shows and the event manager from the Lumberjack World Championship, which will celebrate its 64th anniversary this year. And with that, welcome, Samantha.
Thank you. If that video doesn't get you excited to talk about lumberjack sports, then I don't know what will. I'm excited now.
Oh my gosh, I got really excited. I was going to say that. That's something else. That's crazy. I love it. That's very nice.
It's very unique. If you haven't seen it before, a lot of people just see that and they're instantly intrigued, right?
Yes, right. I saw that on television, but I didn't know that was like real. Like you do that.
Yes, yes.
That's so cool. And how did you get started being a Lumberjill?
Yeah, so I grew up right here in Hayward, hosted the Lumberjack World Championships in Wisconsin, and my mom was the manager at what we call Lumberjack Bowl, Historic Lumberjack Bowl. So rather than signing me up for soccer camp, like a lot of kids do when they're younger, she signed me up for log rolling school when I was 5. So I spent the summers down there log rolling with my friends, doing a little bit of swimming when I was younger, and I just stuck with it. You know, as you get older and you move out of the amateur ranks and into the pro ranks, you kind of are also going through high school and college and making that transition into adulthood, and you have to decide, is this something I really want to commit to? And I did, and I love it, and I'm so happy I stuck with it, and it's just been a passion of mine since I was 5.
Whoa, I can tell why. That's very cool.
Yeah.
And let's have you give us a little background about the Lumberjack World Championship.
Yeah, so this summer will be our 64th annual competition. in a nutshell, the Lumberjack World Championships is a 3-day international competition held right here in Hayward, Wisconsin, showcasing some of the best choppers, sawyers, speed climbers, log rollers, and boom runners from across the world. We have over 10,000 spectators that we see throughout the 3 days, and we have over $70,000 in prize money for our athletes. It is just rich in history. It started in 1960. It actually was started by a local man named Tony Wise. If you're from the Hayward area, he's a very familiar name around here. He was a Hayward vet, or Hayward native, excuse me. He was an Army vet, World War II. He got his MBA from Harvard University, and he moved back to the Hayward area in 1947, actually. And his goal was to kind of revive the Hayward area and make it a destination place for people from the Chicago and Twin Cities area. And he thought, what can I do to get people to come here? And he kind of had 3 things on his mind. He wanted to start a ski resort. He wanted to start a giant cross-country ski race. And he had this idea of History Land and the Lumberjack World Championships. And he successfully did all of them. He started the American Birkebeiner ski race. He started History Land and the Lumberjack World Championships. And he started a ski resort. And we're lucky enough to carry on the tradition of the Lumberjack World Championships. And I have a quote from him here as to why he kind of wanted to start this event. It says, the Lumberjack World Championships were inaugurated in 1960 to perpetuate and glorify the working skills of the American lumberjack. Hayward, Wisconsin came into existence because of the lumber industry. Therefore, it was fitting that one of the largest logging competitions should be held here also. And it's true, right where we compete down at Lumberjack Bowl, that body of water you saw there, it was actually a holding pond for those logs before they were sold. So it was used as by the lumberjacks back, in the mid to late 1800s. So it's just kind of exciting that we're able to carry on that rich tradition and carry on this legacy that Tony created and worked so hard for, and it's taken 64 years to grow it to what it is today, right? Like when he started, he didn't have a lot of money. It was all word of mouth, trying to convince international competitors to come, even local, United States competitors. And it's just grown and grown. And here we are talking about it to you in Brazil. So it's just really exciting for me.
He did a great job, right?
Yeah.
And it must be really nice for you and for the community to start doing the traditional things you guys used to do. And now it is famous. And as you said, now we are talking about that. And I'm here in Brazil looking forward to know more and hear more. And by the way, do you compete since you were like 5 years old? Like for how long are you competing?
Yeah, so I've been competing for 30 years. Log rolling was kind of the bread and butter when I started. And as I got older, I got into the boom running, which you saw in that opening video there, the string of logs attached between the 2 docks where you run down and back. And my husband actually is also a competitor. So as we, worked our way into the pro ranks, we do the Jack and Jill sawing together. And then I do the Jill and Jill sawing with my partner, who's another log roller as well. So I dabble kind of on both sides of the dock, but mainly stick to the water events.
That's so cool. And it is so cool because you look like being so sweet, so delicate. And then I see these videos, like it's crazy. That's so nice.
Yeah, you get a wide variety of competitors. You get people work in the logging industry. I'm an event director. Some people are school teachers. Some people are chemists. Some people are attorneys. Our lumberjack community kind of comes from all backgrounds, and everyone is so different in what they do and their history with this sport, and even down to what they look like. And I think that's what makes it so unique, is that when you turn it on or you come to watch, you're like, wow, who are these people? Where do they come from? This is a hobby sport for many people. It's not their full-time job. There is decent prize money, but the gear is so expensive. It's typically not enough to make it a full-time job for most folks. So it is something that people are traveling on the weekends doing. So it just creates this really kind of unique lumberjack family that we have.
Yeah, that's very nice. That's very nice in general in outdoors sports. The community are so nice. Yeah. And it is an inspiration for people because people can do anything, right? So that's very nice.
Yeah.
And what type of events are there?
Yeah, so we have a variety of events that you'll see. The speed climbing, which was those really tall poles you saw on the video there. They're 60 and 90 feet tall, and the guys climb up and down. We call it the loony bin, where we have the speed climbing poles, because you've got to have a few screws loose to compete in that event, as far as I'm concerned. We've got the log rolling, which is in the water, a very traditional event. That's an event that's been around since the inception of the Lumberjack World Championships. That's one that most people have seen before. The boom running came quite a few years later. That's a string of logs attached across the center of Lumberjack Bowl there. And then we've got axe throwing. That one very familiar for many people. Axe throwing bars are popping up all over the country, so I know a lot of people have tried that out these days. Then we've got a variety of chopping events. We've got an underhand chop, which is a log that is below their feet, and they're actually standing on top and just chopping right in between their feet from both sides. We've got a standing block chop, which is a vertical log, and they're standing on the deck chopping from both sides. And then we've got a springboard chop, where they actually have a tree standing, about a 6-foot tree standing. They have to chop 2 pockets in that tree, place the springboard in there, and then standing on that top springboard, which is kind of bouncing and flexing, they have to chop through the top of, or the block on top of there. So again, all of those came from kind of the skills and the work that those olden day lumberjacks had to do. So that's kind of how those came about. And then we've got a variety of sawing events. So we've got the hot saw event, or the modified chainsaw event. So these guys typically have old dirt bike or snowmobile engines that they've put bars and chains on. They're absolutely insane and loud, and they bring those out and compete with them. And then we've got some traditional sawing events. So those old crosscut saws that a lot of people here in the Midwest have hanging on their walls, in their cabins, or at, these restaurants, the single buck saws. We've got a man and a woman who saw individually in that event. We've got an event where 2 men saw together, so handles on both ends. We've got an event where 2 ladies saw together, 2 Lumberjills, so again, 2 handles on both ends. And then we've got the one event where we combine the men and the women. It's called the Jack and Jill sawing event. And that's what my husband and I do. And that's where we get the guys and the gals together and they work through that log together. So those are all of the events that you'll see in a weekend at Lumberjack Bowl, which makes it exciting. You're never just watching the same thing. There's action going on. There's different action going on all over the place.
Yes, that's lots to do. And when I'm hearing you, I'm wondering, how dangerous is that? I mean, anyone has been seriously injured or something like that during the competitions?
Yeah, I mean, what we do is dangerous. A lot of safety precautions are taken with the chopping. Specifically, the guys and gals wear chainmail, kind of like a knight's armor under their pants and in their shoes. So if that axe were to glance or come off of their log and hit their toe or their shin, it would leave a pretty good bruise, but it's not actually going to sever anything. So that keeps those pretty safe. In addition, over on the log rolling side, we actually have spiked shoes on. So we take soccer cleats, we tear or grind the bottoms off, and we put about anywhere from 15 to 20 quarter-inch logging spikes in the bottom. For the most part, our feet are staying on top of the log, but occasionally when you fall, you'll catch a leg or a shin or a thigh, or, who knows how you're falling. So you'll get a little cut that way, but that one's pretty safe. The most dangerous event that you'll see contested is that speed climb. Those guys have 2 gaffs. They're essentially linemen's gaffs that have been heat and bent. So they've been modified to allow these guys to literally sprint up and down those poles. Those are hooked onto their shoes. And then they've got that rope. There's no belay system or anything. We've got a safety rope on the top so that they can't actually go up and over that pole. But we have seen some injuries there. But what we do is we go through a pretty extensive ranking process with the competition committee and make sure that everybody competing at our event is qualified to be there. So they are the best of the best, the top 24 in each event that have applied. So we really don't see a lot of injuries because these guys and gals are so practiced, and they're just such professionals in what they do that we don't see a lot of slip-ups. So it does look dangerous, but we keep it pretty safe, actually. Fair question.
Yeah. Yes, because I rock climb and I use so many equipments, and then when I saw the speed climb, I was like, whoa, that's something else.
It is unreal. Those guys are so incredible and just so athletic to be able to do that. It is just, and that's definitely one of those crowd pleasers, right? Because people, they can't believe it. And, a lot of people are scared of heights, and everything else, people have chopped wood or thrown an axe or seen a saw, but they see that speed climb and they just can't imagine doing that. So it's one of those thrilling events.
Yes, it's like a Superman and super women's power. And talking about that, has the Lumberjack World Championship always been men and women?
Yeah, so when it first started in 1960, the only female event that was offered was log rolling. Log rolling was established probably about 10 years before that. There was an organization that was in charge of these log rolling competitions. And so the log rollers were kind of established in that sense. The chopping and sawing took a little bit longer. So it wasn't until 1984 that Jack and Jill sawing was actually introduced on the stage. And that was the first time that you saw women on that chopping and sawing dock. And it was actually Mel Lentz and Shirley Smith who won that first title in 1984. Mel Lentz is still competing. His son is competing. Wow. So it's kind of fun to see that name as, being one of the first, and he's still around. These athletes just compete well into, their 60s or 70s even. We have a master's division at LWC. So it's really great to see like that active lifestyle and just that history carrying on and down through the families. And then actually this year we're celebrating 30 years of the women chopping and sawing on our stage. So 1994 was the first year that the women had their own chopping and their own sawing on the LWC stage. This was thanks in good part to Tina Shear, Jim Alexander, and Penny Halverson. They had these women who just refused to accept that they weren't allowed to be on that dock. And they kept pushing and insisting that they should be there. And then they got there, right? Tina specifically did a lot of work in raising prize money and helping to establish that. And then, about 3 years in, it caught on and they were able to get more prize money, and then it was accepted. And now we offer just as many women's events as we do men's events. Some of them are open, such as the speed climb, the springboard, and the hot sauce. You don't see a lot of, if any, women entering those events, but we do have the same opportunities for women as we do men on our stage, which I am very proud of. I think that is something that's so important, not only for the people who are competing, but for younger athletes and younger generations to see both men and women on the stage together.
Yes, for sure. Even though I don't know much about those people, those women you said, once I am woman as well, I am very thankful for women like those women you just said, who worked so hard for open opportunity for the women in general. So that's very, very nice. And that's very nice to see a sport so open for everyone, for women, men, older people. So that's very nice. And talking about that, are your kids involved in this?
Yeah, so I've got two kiddos. They're 4 and 3. So they're not too involved yet, but they do see me practicing log rolling in the summer. They see my husband training in the chopping and sawing. So they will hop on a log. There's still a lot of hand holding at this point. They do have foam axes. We ordered them from Amazon. So they will they do some chopping in the backyard and some chopping in the house. We have to talk about, appropriate things to chop and appropriate thing and not appropriate things to chop. They definitely get it. This is something that they've just grown up around, and they're going to continue to be around. I'll never force them to compete. I do hope they share the same love for it as us. Right now, they definitely show that. So I'm hoping that they'll add to those competitor numbers as they get older here. We do offer, and we don't talk about it a lot, but we do offer an amateur log rolling event at the Lumberjack World Championships. So in the morning on Thursday and Friday, we do open it to amateur log rollers. It's the only amateur event we offer, but it's really exciting to see anywhere from the U7 division all the way up to about 17 years old. You see in the amateur division rolling before all the pros come out in the afternoon and the evening. So we really do see all ages throughout the weekend, which it warms my heart.
That's very cute. I would love to see those kids. That's so nice. And it is a nice Right. It is a nice family time as well that you and your husband are building with your kids, teaching like those nice things, and they may compete as well, but sounds like they will. It is in your blood, pretty much.
It is. And you see that a lot in this sport, actually. There's a lot of generational athletes. A lot of the guys and gals who compete, their parents have competed, and some of them, their grandparents have competed. So they were truly just born into the sport. So not only do you have actual blood families in it, but then because we're all traveling together on the weekends, our kids are all together all the time, playing and practicing. Like I said, we just become one big family. So, our competition, we have about 110 pro athletes that compete at LWC over the 3 days. They're Lumberjack World Championships. It is like one giant family. It's one big get together. Everyone's in the athlete tent catching up. And people are coming from all over, right? They're from not only all over the United States, from East Coast to West Coast here in the Midwest, but they're coming from internationally. We have competitors from Australia, New Zealand, Japan, Canada, Sweden, the Czech Republic. It just kind of depends on the year, but we usually have 4 to 5 different countries represented on our stage, which is really great. I mean, we're a town of 2,500 people on a regular day here in northern Wisconsin. So to have all of these international competitors coming to our town to compete is just so special.
Yes, that's nice. And I'm sure you guys looking forward to see each other in the competitions and travel all together and, have this family friends moment in the competition, because in the end of the day, it's not just about winning, right? It is about the community, like the event itself. So I'm sure you can make lots of friends and see all of them in those big events. Must be so nice.
It is. Yeah. And for me, as the event manager, it is about the competition. It is about the athletes. Being an athlete, I have that perspective, but it is about this great community event for our community too. I mean, we have ticket holders who are traveling from all over. Again, people truly from, I think we had 30 different states maybe represented last year in our crowd, which is awesome. People are planning their summer vacations around this. Some are driving in their campers. Some are flying in and spending a week here. So drawing people to our community. They're also, going downtown and hanging out and shopping and visiting the local restaurants, visiting Lumberjack Bowls. So it's really just great to me that we can have a competition that is drawing these people from across the country to come to our area, come to the Northwoods and experience it, and hopefully have such a good time that they want to come back, right? There's hunting and fishing and all of this other great stuff here, ski races, so it's just great that our little community can host these world-class events and really entertain people from all over.
And I'm wondering here, what was your most memorable time while competing?
While competing, my most memorable moment is getting second place in the log rolling. It wasn't first. I don't know if I'll ever reach that point again, just with where I'm at in life with my family and just priorities. But I got second place to my Jill and Jill sawing partner. So one of my really good friends and I rolled for the championship. But, second place isn't so bad. The women's field has just gotten more and more competitive as the years have gone on. And that's a memory that I don't think I'll ever forget. Just competing on Saturday night at Lumberjack Bowl. There's about 3,000 people in there, just packed around there. The sun is setting. It's just like I get goosebumps talking about it. It's just such a special, special weekend for me and has been since I grew up here and have been competing for so long. It's just a great memory for me.
And I have a personal question now.
Okay.
Did you meet your husband in those competitions?
We did meet through Lumberjack Sports. Yeah, we met we've been together for 13 years now, married for 5. So, we probably knew each other for 5 to 10 years before we got together. But yeah, we met through Lumberjack Sports, which is exciting, right? He's actually originally from upstate New York and got started in the sport through a collegiate team. So he competed out at Paul Smith's in New York and then helped to start the team at Stevens Point here in Wisconsin. and got his start collegiately, which is just kind of another avenue into lumberjack sports.
How cool. I love it. You can make friends and also find the love of your life.
You don't know what's going to happen when you get down the lumberjack bowl, I tell you.
Oh, how cool. And do you think that the Lumberjack World Championship will be any different in the next 20 years?
I hope so. So we'll backtrack a little bit. Some of the history behind it, back when Tony Wise first started it, when he was working on just getting the word out about this competition and trying to get international competitors here, one of the big things that he tried to do was get national media. And the ABC's Wide World of Sports was one thing that he was able to get involved. I don't know if you are familiar with that or remember that at all, but it was this great TV show that was on ABC. Everybody watched it. So Lumberjack Sports kind of became a household name at that point. And that was 1979 to 1982. They actually signed a contract, and the Lumberjack World Championships got paid, which was huge back in the day. You know, it was about $12,000 to $13,000 they had for these TV rights, which back then was a lot of money. So that helped to grow the sport, and I want to see that happen again. Now, we've got great media that comes in. We've seen great media throughout the years. We've aired on ESPN3. We've had other ESPN. We had the Today Show there. We get some really great national media, but one of my personal goals is to see the Lumberjack World Championships being aired nationally again, making the sport a household name, making these athletes a household name, being able to tell their stories, the people that they are, all these, this is one of probably 40 competitions throughout the summer. And that might even be a low number. There's a few competitions here in the Midwest, other smaller competitions. There's some on the East Coast and some on the West Coast, but it's this whole circuit going on. Basically, as soon as it's warm enough to chop wood and roll logs in soft water, not hard water as we call it. So, getting it on TV and getting it nationally known again, or just more nationally known, is one of my personal goals. In addition to that, even though we offer the same number of men's events and women's events, our women's numbers are always lower than our men. We typically get more men applying than women. So I would love to see the number of women applying and the number of women in the sport increase and match the men a little bit more. It has steadily grown over the years, thanks to the awesome just ambassadors and just gals that we have on the stage. When you watch them, they're so great with talking to people. They carry themselves well. And I think it's an inspiration for other females who are maybe at the high school or collegiate level and are interested in getting started. And then my last goal is just get more international competitors. We do have a good spread, but we typically have about 5 to 10 maybe each year. I would love to see more people come over internationally. Obviously, it's a big trip. Traveling with this gear is not easy. That's a whole other podcast we could do about traveling with your axe and your saws, and forget a hot saw. My husband and I have been over to Australia to compete. He's been all over to compete, but traveling with your gear just adds another layer of complications. So, getting more international competitors here would be great, but I know it's expensive, and it's a trip for those guys.
Well, you are inspiration. So I hope that women and girls in general can compete more. And we are seeing in sports in general that girls are playing more. So that's very nice. And by the way, we have a rock star from ESPN in the show. I didn't know that. You're a real rock star. So you compete, you are the marketing manager, you have 2 kids, you teach them those amazing stuff, and you also on the television.
I'm just doing my best over here, just trying to stay busy.
Well, you were doing a great job being busy. Well, now we are in my favorite part of the show. We have some pictures here to look up. So
Lovely.
One, can you show it to us?
So we can kind of talk about them if you want.
Yes, please explain.
Yeah, so this is the men's underhand chop. So this is a chop that if you're getting into the sport, this is usually the first one you're going to learn. And they are just starting. I believe this is on go because all of their axes are up together. So they'll chop about halfway through that block, right in between their toes there, and then they'll turn around and finish chopping on the other side. So this is one of just those bread and butter events that you'll see at every lumberjack competition.
Oh my gosh, it looks danger.
It sure does, but believe it or not, this is one of the safer ones. And like I said, they do wear that chainmail under their socks, so safety precautions are being taken. You just don't necessarily see it in a photo.
Well, that's very cool, and must be very exciting watching to see who finished first.
So fast. Yeah, they're just so fast. The axe is out of the wood before, as soon as it's in, and it's hard to believe how fast they go.
That's pretty cool.
So this is actually my partner Meredith and I. So this is the Jill and Jill. That's my husband wedging for us. So one saw, two handles, and you're just working your way through that. This is all about working with your partner, right? We can't be pulling at the same time. We can't be pushing at the same time. So just kind of getting in that rhythm. You do get to use a third partner or a teammate in this one. And Adam's there holding, you see he's got a wooden wedge in his hand, and his other hand that's hidden is using usually a lubricant like a WD-40. So they spray that on the saw to keep it moving. And then that wedge in the top just helps separate that cookie or that disc that we're cutting from the log. So it allows that saw to move a little more freely in there. And you can see all the noodles or the wood chips kind of flying off the end of the saw there.
Yeah, that's very cool. And how do you guys train for that? You find a tree and cut it?
Essentially, yes. So you'll notice the wood that we're using is perfectly round. So all the competition wood is lathe turned. And it's typically from the same stand of trees, and it's all turned to the same size. That's one unique thing about our sport is you can never guarantee that things are going to be the same. You don't know when a knot's going to appear, where a branch was growing or something. So sometimes you hit a knot, which really slows these saws down. These saws are so incredibly sharp. If your finger even touches one of the teeth on that saw, you will puncture your skin. So with that, you actually can't hit a knot without potentially bending or breaking a tooth. You don't want it to hit any sand. So you make sure the log is clean. As soon as we're done, that saw goes right back in the scabbard. So training is essentially on the same type of stuff. You'll find you cut down trees, typically trees that are a little bit softer if you're here in the Midwest, or, trees that'll be similar to what you're going to be chopping or sawing on. So white pine or aspen for us here. Then you take the bark off because that's the rough part there. And you set it in a stand, and this is how we practice. We pull the saw. You're typically not pulling your competition saw in practice. You usually have one that's just for practice, and then you pull your really sharp one out. After so many pulls on that saw, you do have to get it resharpened. There are only about 3 guys in the world that do that. They're all hand fired. Yeah, and there's a waiting list for it. So it's not like you go home, you pop on a podcast and you're sharpening your saw. So again, with the gear is just, it adds a whole other level of complexity to the sport.
Yeah, so everyone has your own equipments, or the tournament give it for be more like equal?
Nope, everybody comes with their own gear. So you kind of have to have a budget too. The more money you have, the better saw you might have. Now, you could have a great saw and not know how to operate it and not be a great sawyer. So obviously the technique and skill has to be there, but many of these guys and gals are coming to a competition and they've got 2-3 boxes of axes that they're showing up with. Some are showing up with 1 box of axes because it's all they can afford, or maybe they just got into the sport and they haven't, built up their repertoire essentially. But you're coming with all your own gear, all your own axes, all your own saws. You see my front foot there, not on Meredith so much, but mine on the right. That's just another piece of gear a lot of people ask about. It's just a block on the ground. So you can put those on the dock. It just helps to basically keep your feet steady and gives you some more leverage so your feet aren't sliding around. We are both wearing our log rolling corks there. So they've got those cleats or those spikes on them, but that's just so you have better footing when you're sawing.
Yeah, I noticed that. But now I understand what you mean when you said it is harder to travel with your equipment. So I cannot imagine going to an airplane with that.
they don't let you carry it on. They just tell you it's not very safe. So tea bags become your best friend. So when we pack those up, you take the handles off. You spend about 10 to 15 minutes cleaning them. You use, just like a paintbrush. Again, your WD-40, you get all the wood chips off. You lube it up. You make sure there's no other moisture on there, no water. You put it back in the wooden scabbard. You screw it shut, and that's how you carry it to the next competition or to the next show.
Wow. That's lots of work. Oh, there you go.
Another shot of it there coming off. So yeah, you can even, this is a good one, in the middle of the log there, you can see the knot. So
yeah,
sometimes those slow you down. And as a competition director, we try to work to actively avoid having that. Now, the next person, we would cut into that log to try to get past that knot, because not only does it make the competition unfair, that knot slows you down in the sawing, but it can ruin someone's gear. So we'll work through those knots as we go, but that's just a part of our sport. You just can't, every log can't be the same. There's just no way around the log. So we can get them from the same tree or the same stand of timber so they can be as similar as possible, but that's about as close as you can get.
Yeah, you cannot control nature and trees. It is how it is.
As much as we want to, we sure can't.
And that's the beauty of the outdoors. Oh, I love that.
So love it. Log rolling. This is from this last summer. This is what I love right here. So it's 2 people on the log. There are 3 out of 5 matches, and you're just trying to stay on longer than the other person. You're moving your feet. You're concentrating on your opponent's feet. Log rolling it's very much a cardiovascular sport. It takes strength, but it's so mental as well. You cannot lose your focus for a half a second or your butt is in the water. So it just takes a lot of focus, tuning everything else out, not letting yourself get nervous, just kind of doing what you know how to do out there.
That's nice. And you cannot touch another girl, right?
Correct. Yeah. Sometimes your hands might touch just with flailing, but you can't intentionally touch them. And you can't cross that. There's a center line on the log. You can't step on or cross that center line. But other than that, pretty much everything else goes. You can dip your toe in the water and splash water in your opponent's eyes. We'll try to use different. Yeah, I know, right? It's an effective one. We'll use different maneuvers like kicking the log or changing directions. If you can overpower your opponent to try and throw them off. In this match, we're in what's called a bucking match. So we're facing opposite directions. So when you learn to log roll, you just learn to roll over one shoulder. So I look over my left shoulder. It's just kind of like riding right or left-handed. You just have a certain way that you do it, or riding a skateboard. So in a bucking match, one of us is always running forward and one of us is always running backward. So ideally, you want to maintain control and be running forward, because you're usually going to be faster on your front step than you are your back step. So there's some strategy that comes in here too.
Oh, that's crazy. That looks like very hard and difficult.
It is. It takes a good bit to learn to log roll. It's always best if you start as a kid. You're fearless as a kid. Your center of gravity is lower. When you start as an adult, it's just your brain is telling you that this isn't wise. It's telling you to jump off. Your center of gravity isn't used to, not only is it a free floating log, it's spinning, it's bouncing up and down, so I always tell people, if you can start when you're younger, get your kids into it when they're younger, it's just a lot easier for them to learn.
Oh, that's so nice. And it must be very, very nice for kids growing up, learning all those things, the mentally, the physical, the stability.
It is. And it's so much fun, right? I love when you can have sports that are just fun. It's difficult, but you're in the water, you're splashing around. It's summer in Wisconsin. It doesn't get any better than that.
Right?
And these guys are spinning the logs so fast. This was our championship match from last year, that sometimes the log just disappears, which again makes it even trickier. But these guys are so good. They know where that log is, that they don't necessarily need to see it the whole time to know where it is under their feet. So just lots of practice, lots of repetition in the log rolling. The best training for log rolling is log rolling. Nothing compares to it. You can be a runner, you can be a skier, but being on that log and essentially sprinting back and forth and sprinting in place while the log is rotating, I've never found anything that can quite compare to that.
Yes. Could you say that it is the most difficult competition in the show?
I would say it's one of the tougher ones to learn, but they all have, they all just have their difficulties. So I would say log rolling to compete at the pro level might be one of the tougher events to learn. But they all kind of carry their own difficulties, and to perfect that skill level.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
So this.
That's easier. I like it.
Yep. So this is Mike Sullivan. He's won this event many times. I don't even know how much money that some of these guys have into these saws. A new saw can run anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000. Some of these guys have $20,000 to $30,000 in one of these chainsaws. Absolutely incredible. But they will slice through 3 of those wood cookies in 4 or 5 seconds, no problem. I mean, it's frightening, and they're loud. They're loud. Yep. So ear protection, leg protection here. All safety precautions are taken with this one. We have extra guards up in between the stands. But these saws are fun. They're fun to watch. People love watching the hot saw.
I can picture that for sure.
Yep. This is the Jack and Jill. So similar to that. Now you've got a man and a woman on the end. So I always think that this one's trickier for the male because he's got to. Typically, men are stronger than women. That's just the case. They're bigger, whatever it might be. So a lot of times the men, like especially my husband, he's almost got to slow down just a little bit for me because if he overpowers me, then we're actually going slower. Whereas if he kind of waits for me and works at my speed, we can saw really well together. So again, all about finding your partner, working with them consistently and just getting into the rhythm. Martha and Jason are great competitors together. So they're 2 of the best at this event here.
Well, it can be a good couple therapy or not.
Or it could send you to therapy. You just never know.
Oh, there we go.
This is the speed climb. So these are the loony bin guys here. So this is those red lines there are the 60-foot marks on our 90-foot tree. So we've got the 60-foot speed climb that's contested and the 90-foot. I believe this is Devin Blair and Caleb Graves there. So 2 of our best speed climbers. 1 gap on the inside of each boot in that rope. And these guys climb up those trees like you and I would walk down the street. It is just amazing to watch them. They make it look so effortless.
Yes, they are so fast. And seems like they are not even like tired.
I mean, they just make it look so easy that you're like, are you trying? And they are. It's incredibly difficult when they get done. They're out of breath, but they're so graceful in how they go up and, how they come down. And, it's so tough on their bodies because Caleb, who's already coming down on the right there, they have to put one of those gaffs in every 15 feet. So they can't just do a complete free fall. But imagine falling that fast and then having to stick a metal spike into the tree. It's going to slow you down, right? So part of the finesse there is getting that gaff in and out without it slowing you down or, pulling your leg back up or whatever it might be. So this one really takes a lot of rhythm and just practice of getting into that climb and then getting comfortable with coming down.
Yeah, so much technique.
So much. This is the springboard chop. So that's about the top half of the tree there. So those boards that those guys are standing on are actually slipped into pockets that they've chopped in the tree. So this one is like the marathon of the chopping events. It's the longest event. The hardest part, honestly, is chopping those pockets in the tree. I say that and I've never done it, but from what I'm told, chopping the perfect pocket so that that board has a metal clip or a metal shoe on it. That shoe has to stick in there. If they don't get a good pocket, that board could fly out and then they'll fall down. So it's all about getting a good board. And then you can't see it in the picture. A video is better here, but that board kind of actually flexes up and down as they're chopping. So it adds the difficulty here. Not only are you 6 feet in the air, so you've got that in your head, but that board is flexing up and down as you're chopping through. And then in this one, they still have to turn around and make at least 1 chop on the backside of that log. So when they go to the backside, they're actually then chopping with their offhand. So it just has so many layers of difficulty. This one is one of the most exciting ones to watch, I think, because it just requires so much skill and technique.
Oh boy, I've never saw that. I love it. And looks like it'd be very, very difficult for sure.
It does. And this one is cool because it, again, stems from historically the lumberjacks, if they were working on the side of a hill and they needed to get on level ground, they would chop a pocket in a tree and chop the tree like this, or saw the tree like this. Or sometimes some of those larger trees had these really large root systems, and they had to get above those to get to the tree to saw or chop it down. So they had to chop pockets and put these springboards in. I used to live in Colorado, and my husband and I would be hiking. We would come across these old trees on the sides of the mountains that would actually have these springboard pockets in them that were however many decades old, because that's truly how they used to get up above these root systems or on the side of these hills to chop these trees down. So it's all about the history.
Well, there you go. I was wondering.
Yeah. This is axe throwing. That's actually our champion from last year, Mr. Ben Whalen. So we use double bitted axes. A lot of people talk about going to axe throwing bars, and a lot of them use hatchets. Some do use these double bitted axes, but the competitors stand from 20 feet away, and they've got to make, the axe essentially makes one full rotation on the way to the target, and the highest score wins. Perfect score is a 15. They're looking to hit that bullseye.
Oh boy, I always see that on movies and stuff like that, and I always wanted to try. So so much fun.
Well, come to Hayward first week in August. This is the boom run. So this is another thriller for the crowd. These guys and gals sprint down across the logs, and then they run around a barrel and come back. So again, these logs are free floating. As you can see, they're going up and down. They'll spin back and forth. It's incredibly difficult. It is so much fun to do, and it's so much fun to watch. They can fall in. You can fall in up to 3 times, and then you're out. But you can fall in and hop back up. So the crowd really gets invested when you fall in. They're cheering for you to get back on. Which is obviously very difficult because the water is, up to your chest or neck in the middle there. So just a really fun one to watch.
Love it. Well, last one.
This is a historical one. So this is Ron Hartel. As you can see, competition shirts were not a thing in days of old. He, it's funny, but he actually brought so much exposure to the sport by chopping without his shirt on. So stuff like this really does sell, and it, really attracted people. But this photo is from Lumberjack Bowl, right, where we still chop. We have new bleachers, we might have a new dock, but it's really cool that we're in the same spot that the Lumberjack World Championships, first kind of got its start. So I just love old photos like this. Nowadays, everyone has to wear their shirt. We keep it PG, but I'm sure people would be much more excited to see stuff like this.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I love it. Well, that's all. And if people want to be part and do those crazy stuff, what they need to do, they need to be a super woman and superman, how it works.
Yeah, that's essentially it. I mean, no, I'm just kidding. A couple ways you can get started. So I kind of mentioned the one earlier, getting involved collegiately. There are a lot of schools, specifically here in the Midwest, out in the Northeast and Northwest. A lot of colleges have timber sport teams, some high schools, so they get started that way. Otherwise, connecting with a local pro. So you can always, email us, and you can see where you're located, and we can hook you up with the pro. A lot of people just get started by going and training with pros, and they watch and they learn. And the last way, and not everyone does this successfully, is YouTube. We have one lumberjack who started watching YouTube videos, was kind of self-taught. I mean, he's since trained with other people. He's now an excellent competitor, but he really taught himself off of YouTube. So thank goodness for the internet and things like YouTube, and people are able to teach themselves all of these great skills. So there are many ways to get involved if you really want to and you really have a passion for this.
That's cool. And where can people connect with you online if they want to learn from you?
Yeah, so you can connect with the Lumberjack World Championships on Instagram at Lumberjack Champs, on Facebook at Lumberjack World Championships, or on YouTube at Lumberjack World Championships. I'm on all those pages all the time, checking in with people. helping to post. And I'm also available via email at info@lumberjackworldchampionships.com. Or you can visit our website, lumberjackbowl.com, and see, we've got our store on there. We're working on getting some more history up. We've got athlete bios on there, more about the competition this year, how to buy tickets. We love to have everybody come join us in Hayward this summer.
Well, guys, so enjoy the competition. Well, Samantha, thank you very much for being our guest. It was very lovely to hear your histories and see your pictures and see how you rock it. You are really rock star and superhero. So thank you very much for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate you guys asking me to be on and talk more about it. Anytime I can talk about lumberjack sports and the Lumberjack World Championships, I am one happy gal.
Well, and I want to thank you guys for following the show. And thank you for the audience for tuning in, outdoors people. Until next week. Ciao.